Welcome to Stronger Than the Story, Real Women, Real Overcoming. I'm Janae Robinson. These conversations are with women who have faced life-altering experiences and discovered a strength they didn't know they had. Because your story may shape you, but it doesn't decide what rises next. I'm with Amanda Romero. Amanda's journey has been shaped by deep loss, transformation, and a calling to help others heal. After losing her mom to cancer and later her dad to Alzheimer's, she was guided into a spiritual awakening and deeper connection to intuition and energy. While moving through grief, she also navigated challenges in her marriage while raising her three boys, who are 26, 21, and 17. As a wife of 22 years, these experiences brought her back to herself and her purpose. Her path led to Peru, where sacred plant medicine became a turning point. In one ceremony, she saw a vision that later mirrored her own experience with breast cancer and the removal of a large tumor, something she believes helped save her life. Today, she is a triathlete and four-time Ironman 70.3 finisher. She practices astrology and facilitates Kambo and energy healing. She believes our hardest seasons are here to guide us back to ourselves. Welcome, Amanda.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
I'm excited too. Well, why don't we just jump in? Why don't we just
Okay.
jump in?
Okay.
So, when people meet you today, what do you hope that they feel from you right away?
Mm, that's such a beautiful question. So safe, being able to come to me and share, how their struggles. It's funny, I go to the grocery store and I'll just be talking to a stranger lately and they'll just start unwinding their whole trauma in their life, right? So I really feel that I provide safety for the people I'm close to and also comfort and able to just give hope, where hope is lost in a lot of ways. And through integrity and also, I'm a very devoted friend and kind to people. And so I I just really like to hear people walk away with feeling lighter after sharing, their struggles, and it's beautiful to witness healing in others.
Awesome. Was that always true about you?
No. No, no, it wasn't always true. I mean, I was going through my own struggles, right? So I finally have gotten to a place where I can witness others in their healing, and their healing journeys, because at a time when I was going through my own healing journey, I didn't even know that I was going through that, right? So now I can look back and say, wow, like, losing my mom to cancer 11 years ago really opened that healing journey for me, that opened the door that I didn't even know needed to be opened. And like through walking this path, I would say the one thing that has always been true is people uh have come to me for, advice or like help along their way of their healing or their traumas or things that they've gone through. And I never even realized that that was a gift that I had, right? So losing my mom really just opened the healing door for me of like, I didn't know what to do. I was at a loss, when I lost her. She was my best friend and it was very traumatizing for me. So I turned to journaling. I turned to um, you know, inner work on myself. And it was funny, like when my mom died, the journaling became the way we communicated with each other
Oh
in
my
the
gosh.
ethers. It was like this spiritual conversation. And I couldn't figure out, like, I'd be journaling and writing in the third person, and I'm like, okay, this is weird. I'm talking to myself, But also, I think there was part of my higher self that was speaking through my journaling. And then my mom would come through the journaling. And so that really is what like set the path, because I had to finally just succumb that I wasn't losing my mind, that this is actually what was the messages were coming through in that way. And so journaling, the first year that my mom died, I wrote 12 journals back to back,
Wow.
like full pages. And I have no idea what's in there. I haven't even like opened the, I mean, I feel it's funny. I always joke that this is my book that's like in a drawer somewhere. One day I'll take out and it'll be the start of my book, because the day I bought the journal was the day my mom started transitioning into her, and like in my first journal, I remember the orange journal, I was writing in there, um listening to her breathe. And I remember writing about that. And that's when the journaling started, was in her transition of death. And so I'm a big believer that that was the universe and spirit that was guiding me into this healing path. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I call that soul work, the
Yeah.
soul journaling, where sometimes, yeah, somebody does come through, and it's always really interesting. But and and so interesting when you started that, right? Like, what made you start then?
Um, so funny story. So there was a lady, my mom, we hired these ladies to come in and help at night so I could get some sleep while I was taking care of her. And like I was her soul, other than my brother, I was her person, my mom never remarried. And so we only had each other. And at the time, my brother had a newborn baby and little baby. And so it was not possible for him to be there. So I moved and lived with my mom and took care of her. And this lady came in, and I remember it was a night that my mom was laying in bed and she was sleeping. And this woman was so sweet. And we sat there and we just talked, and it was thunder and lightning outside. And we were chatting. And I said, she's like, your mom is close. And she was a very like spiritually intuitive woman. And I'm like, she's like, I think she needs some help. She's like, I think that you need to go to any kind of spiritual store that you like. And at the time back then, I was like, spiritual store, like I don't, okay, like it was just all this hoodoo voodoo, right, in my mind, because I always thought that my mom, like, I, even though I respected it, I also was like, oh, this is like weirdness, right? But I was like, okay, I'll go to a spiritual store. And I went to this store in Encinitas called Soulscape. And my sister-in-law went with me, and we went there. And she's like, you need to find a candle or something that you can light for her to help her transition. And then she's like, does she have a archangel that she is in tune with? And I said, yeah, she loves Archangel Michael. She's like, get something to represent him and bring him into this, and get a candle that you can light to help her. So my sister-in-law and I went, we got it at the Soulscape. We came back, and that night, um, I lit the candle, and that was the night that she ended up passing.
Wow.
And I found this beautiful archangel that sits on my altar at home now. So it's like a
Mhm.
piece of her is on my altar. But I light the candle for her every anniversary of her death. It's just been like, I feel like it's the portal that opened everything up, right? And a funny story is, as soon as my mom died and she transitioned out of this realm, it was like I would go to bed at night and I would see this like kinetic ball of energy that was forming, and it was like in my mind's eye, right where I was sleeping, and I could see this ball, and it would like have all these sparks coming off of it, and like, what is that, right? And I kept waking up at 333, at 111, at 444, at like, and at the time I was very early in my spiritual practices, right? So I had no idea what any of these numbers meant. I had no idea what this kinetic ball of energy was. And I spoke to my one of my mom's best friends that helped her transition, and she was with us when she passed, and I told her about it, and she's like, that's your mom, right? And I was like, whoa, like, she's like, work with it, and I would be showering, washing my hair, and my mom would be in there with this kinetic ball of energy. I just had my eyes closed for 2 seconds washing my hair, and I could hear her like, Mandy, you need to do all these things because that was what they called me as a kid. Like, you need to do this, you got to check this, and you got to do this, and look at my phone, and there's all these things. And I would think, like, am I losing my mind? Like, is this person is speaking to me while I, and so finally I got brave enough to tell my brother about it, and he's like, whoa, that's weird, right? But fast forward, and like it was happening every night. This was like 2 month, a month, about a month of her before we had her service. And like I started doing all the things that she was telling me, and we had a psychic that was a good family friend of hers, and she kept calling my mom's phone over and over again. And finally I pick it up one day and she's like, "You're hold on, like your mom wants to tell you something, but like you've done everything you need to do and you guys have done a good job." And
Mm.
she's like, now just let it be. And it transitioned into us playing Let It Be at her service.
Oh,
And it was quite beautiful that that one night I went to bed the night before her service, and that kinetic ball of energy that I kept seeing all of a sudden just went poof and just like dissipated. And it was like this weight just removed from me. And it was so beautiful because it was that now after all the work that I've done, I know that that was her saying, "Okay, thank you. Like you've done it all. Now I can transition. I can go. I can move on." Um, but it was very beautiful. And again, like I said, that was the door that opened for me in my spiritual journey, really.
that's incredible. Yeah, very incredible.
Thank you.
So you talked a little bit about your mom. She
Hmm.
died of cancer,
Hmm.
and your dad from Alzheimer's.
Hmm.
So going through that grief process, what did the grief teach you that nothing else could? And it might, I mean, I know you just said to let it be, right? But I assume that there might be more there.
There's definitely more. But the biggest underlining thing that, again, like I can sit here today and say this for sure is when you are dying, there is nothing else that matters except for the love that you have for that person. And witnessing someone pass, in the end, all that matters is the love because that is what's going to carry you through to your next chapters of your life while you're still on this plane and they're no longer here. I don't remember any of, like, I do remember some of the hard times because those have been transitional moments of healing for me, but I don't remember a lot of the bad. I only remember a lot of the good and like the things that I truly miss about them the most. So in my grief cycle, I call it like that I went through and I still go through it, right? I'm still cry about them often, right? But it's different now. It's me missing them in the physical form because I want to say like the passing of both of my parents actually created this spiritual awakening for me because I wanted to connect, right? I knew with my mom's passing when I finally realized that she was channeling through me in my journaling. And I was struggling with the connection with my dad. And I was angry at him, like thinking, like, why are you not coming through my journaling? How come I'm not seeing you? And I was convinced that he just was in a different dimension, different place, like energetically. But I would say like grief definitely taught me that in the end that the love that you have for them really is all that matters.
Mm, yeah.
Mhm.
So, you describe a spiritual awakening had started.
Mhm.
So, what actually shifted inside of you?
I finally started to allow like the intuition and the guiding to like to just happen, right? I fast forward, I mean, I continue to journal, right? And I continue to journal because I was like, oh my goodness, this is my connection to my mom. Like, I can't put this down, right? And this was her guiding me through the struggles in my life, like with my children, with my husband, with myself, right? Where I was blocking and getting my own way. So that awakening was like, wow, there's so much more. Like now I know for sure there was so much more. And like I said before, I was so disappointed that my dad wasn't, I was like, oh, he's not strong enough to come in. And like I kept calling him in. And we can talk about that when we get to my Peru experience, and he wasn't coming. And there was other pieces like along the way, but I would say the loss of my mother cracked that wide open. Mhm.
And so, how do you know when it's your intuition speaking versus your fear?
Because the intuition is soft and it's like very soft and subtle. And fear is harsh. Fear is the ego mind, and intuition is your heart speaking, right? So if we let our intuition be our guide, that's our heart guiding us. But fear is ego driven, right? So it's like you're forcing these outcomes and you want these things to happen. So fear is the force, or it's also what holds you back from your evolvement. And intuition is just, it's your inner guide, it's yourself, it's this space that no one else can take, this light that resides inside of you. So often, I was just talking to someone about this today or yesterday, maybe. Uh, I said, man, I really wish I would have listened earlier to my intuition about certain circumstances in my life. And it's the one thing we often dismiss the most. But that goes right back to the saying of what matters the most in the end is love. If we aren't giving that love to ourselves, then that means that we're not listening to our intuition, which is our guide. And fear is the ego. So it's not real. It's false
Yeah,
evidence appearing real, right? That's what someone once told me. Fear is false evidence appearing real. And so intuition is real, though. I will say that.
yeah, intuition is real, and it does take a lot of quieting the mind to get to that place because we live in a very fast-paced world, right? It's like go, 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 get, climb, climb, climb. And so when all of a sudden we're told that we have to be quiet
Mm.
and be in the quiet and that softness, right? It's like, well, how am I going to get here? And I know that my mom had told me a story one time of a friend, and he wouldn't go on vacation. He wouldn't do anything. He'd just work, 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 work. And his wife was just begging, like, let's go do something. I want to enjoy life. Let's go on vacation. And he just kept saying that he wanted to be ahead. He just wanted to be ahead. And she said, of who?
Mm.
And I just thought that that was so profound. It's like,
Yeah,
who is it that we're trying to be ahead of, right?
totally.
And so we deny ourselves in so many ways, and oftentimes it is just a distraction for our worthiness, I guess, right? Because when you're speaking of love and softness and worthiness fits in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I have never heard that explanation before, the way that you described it. And I feel that that is so incredibly beautiful.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's my guide.
there you go.
Mhm.
So you've been married for 22 years.
Mhm.
What does love look like when things are not easy?
Well, that's so tough. Um, it's funny because like, I'm going through my own emotions right now with just different things, and I want to say that love is never easy per se. My husband and I often joke about relationships being like a roller coaster ride, right? You got these highs of highs, and then you get these lows of lows, and then you just keep going on this roller coaster, right? And it never quite changes, right? It's just this constant evolution. I would say, like, when you're in those lows of lows, it's like that's where you really learn the most about yourself and like the love and what shines through of like the most important aspects, right? Because in the highs, we're vibing, we're having fun, right? But in the lows, it's where the work comes in, the lessons come in, the healing of like life, right? And so I would say like when you're in like those hard channels, that's where the work is for you, the lessons. And that's what presents itself to you. So it's up to us how we decide that we want to like navigate that. But I think a lot of times people get stuck in this victim judgment mentality instead, like you want to point the finger at everyone else that it's their fault you're feeling this way. But I heard a statement one time from someone, it was funny. They said, well, there's one point finger pointing back at you every single time you're pointing all those fingers back, right? So it's like a mirror. Relationships are your greatest mirror, even if it's painful. So the best thing like that I've been able to do is now in my early years of marriage, no way. It's your fault and you did it and I don't like you and da, 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 da. I mean, never was it my fault. God forbid if I had to take any accountability for anything, right? But now I've taken a lot of accountability. And so I see where I play in my marriage and my husband is working on seeing where he plays in our marriage. And so it's always a work in progress. Relationships are not linear.
It's so true. And even today I was on a call just for myself. I love self-development, personal development, and I have a coach as well. And so I was on a call today with this coach, and she had talked about the quote, and I'm not sure who said this, if it was like a Rumi quote or something like that, but it's the chopping wood and carrying water. And so when you talk about those trenches, those lows, that's
Mhm.
when we're chopping wood and carrying water. We're doing the work. And oftentimes I feel like we've been given this fantasy of what relationships are supposed to look like. And in reality, they never look that way. They just don't. They just
Mhm.
never look that way.
It's
And
never a
so,
bed of roses. Like,
yeah, it really isn't. There's always the work involved.
because that's what relationships are. Like, if you look at every relationship you have in your life, not just your partner or your marriage, right? Every relationship is a mirror, not just your lover, right? And so and I don't know, like in my life, relationships have come for a season or they've come for a reason,
Mm.
right? And there's those ones that just are short-lived and then there's ones that stay, right? And so the reasons and the seasons, it's like through the seasons you're just kind of shuffling through and they may fall away and then you don't have that friendship anymore and then the reason is there to teach you something. And normally those are friendships that stay a little bit longer or more of a life childhood friendship, maybe, or something like that, right? The people that show up for you and will always show up for you. I look at those as the reasons. And also, like anybody that can teach me a lesson now, I'm like, ooh, tell me about it, right?
Oh,
But,
yeah.
but old me would have been like, no thanks, you know? So,
Right,
but new
right.
me is like, tell me more, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So I really appreciate the seasons and reasons in my life now and a lot different than I used to. Um,
So, what has loving someone through emotional highs and lows taught you about yourself? So, we just talked about carrying water and chopping wood, and what have those emotional highs and lows really taught you about yourself?
well, whether it's my marriage, whether it was seeing my mom through the eye of cancer, whether it's losing my dad to Alzheimer's, like it really mirrored back to me my strength that I have. Um, and my abilities to show up for people and have zero expectations, right? It's like I really got to learn how strong I am. Like I carry so much for other people. And this is something that I've recently put down, which I know that I was carrying so much for everyone else. And so it really taught me a lot about the things that I don't want to do anymore in my life versus the things that I want to embrace more of. Like I have a lot of, or I had a lot of guilt around not being laying in bed more with my mom and giving her the love that she deserved. Because in the time of her passing, I was in my early 30s and it was very painful because, my marriage wasn't good. My children were very young. I decided, you know what? I'm going to go train for an Ironman. How about I do that instead? And, I dove into that and it became my therapy, right? And thank God for that. But yeah, it really, and not just that, like that taught me my strength and my abilities to self-soothe. And I didn't need drugs or alcohol or all the things that people may go out and reach for during that time. This became my vice, like training for an Ironman, right? So I really learned that I was emotionally so strong, right? That I could take on so much and still come out and share the positive in all of the muck and muddle, right? Still come out with this positive light. Like I always think of it as like me coming, like someone coming out of the mud, and I'm like this little lady coming out of the mud, and here I am bringing the light with me. It's like whether it's a lantern, a lighthouse, or a sun behind me, right? It's the light is coming through because I learned that I am the light in the dark for a lot of people. So, yeah,
That's beautiful.
thank you.
So, how do you stay grounded when things feel unpredictable at home?
My spiritual practices for sure help me a lot because over the years, I didn't have spiritual practices until after my mom had passed. That's when the journaling started, and that really kind of opened the door and the foundation. I started journaling, then I started doing tarot, then I started, getting into plant medicine, which we'll talk about later, but then like other pieces, right? So coming back to myself, my breath, my connection to me in my meditations is what keeps me grounded when things get chaotic because that's the only thing I can control, right? I can't control all the noise and all the things that are happening all around me because it's all distraction. But if I can come in and just find like peace in my heart and myself and just a minute of a calm breath, even if it's like just 5 minutes, that allows me to just reset. If I'm in the car, if I'm on a walk, it's almost connecting with that higher self and inner voice of like we all have that voice of like that talks to us, just sitting with it and listening to it. It doesn't matter if it's the noise still. It's just connect with you, breathe into it, and then release it and just focus on your breath. Like that's what really keeps me grounded. Yeah, I'm so grateful for my spiritual practices, and they have expanded ginormously now. It's so much bigger than it was 11 years ago, right? So
Oh my gosh, yeah. And
journaling's only like one little piece now,
yes,
but it's still a part of it. And I have no idea how many journals I have now. They're all over. So,
I have a ton as well,
yeah.
stacks and stacks and stacks,
Yeah.
and but again, that is just a really small piece. And even today, I think I only shared this maybe on one of these interviews during the interview, but I always draw a card for myself and I draw a card for the person. And this was yours, talking about how
Ah,
grounded. And it says a base chakra blessing for soul vitality and stoic foundations. that support the manifestation of my heart's true beauty for the
Mm,
highest good. And
mm.
it's just like,
God, that's so
I've
beautiful.
sat here and talked to you before the interview and then during this interview, and I just thought, oh my gosh, I've got to share this
Mm,
because it's just so perfect.
it's
Um,
so perfect. I know we were talking about it earlier, and like one of the things that has recently come through in my meditation, like I was sharing, is like closing my eyes and going into my body and just allowing whatever visions and things come up. And I just went into my heart space in a meditation today, and it showed me my heart and like how I had all these walls around my heart. And those walls allowed me to control the chaos and the noise of my life, because I was protecting my heart. No matter what, I had this protection on to keep me grounded and outside of the chaos because I could always come back to that space, right? But what happened over time is those walls continued to grow, and then I lost my ability to have any emotion and feeling. So I'm in this process now of breaking those walls down and watching them just kind of crumble. That it's interesting, like what they've reflected to me is like the chains that are just like wrapped around that are just falling off. And as that grows and opens, it's like a beautiful flower like blooming, and it's just like it's really, it's like the divine feminine that's just coming in and just opening up. And like the masculine is just this stoic that's just kind of, I'm still here, but I'm not leading anymore. Right.
right.
So often as women, I feel like we get caught up in having to do all the things, like do, and like the faster you're going and all the things. And I'm thinking, like, I read this quote one time and it said, busy is not productive, right? Like, or if someone tells you that they're too busy, it doesn't matter enough to them, right?
Mhm.
And it's so funny because the masculine is super busy, it's driven, right? The masculine is the giver, and the feminine is the receiver. So, as women, think about how much we are giving of ourselves. So, we're living in that masculine energy. But how good does it feel when someone gives something to us, whether it's a lover or a friend or whatever? Because innately receiving is like our heart's path, the way as women. But we live so much in this giving masculine energy. So it's not wonder we don't have anything left at the end of the day sometimes. And when someone gives us something, we're thinking like, oh, like this is a charity cause. Like don't give me your stuff. Like I don't need it, whatever. But we're not supposed to be in the masculine. We are women. And I'll tell you something, that the feminine energy is the highest power. We are the only direct connection to the divine. Think of
We are
it.
creators. Yeah,
Yeah.
we are creators, and our creative zone, right,
Mhm.
is where our womb is. You know,
Yeah.
we are creators, and whether we have children or not, we are still creators. You know, I've gone through menopause. I am still a creator. I can still create through that center. And I love that you brought up the heart wall because I've been working on mine as well. And and just the visuals when those walls start to come down. Mine was like stucco, made of stucco, this really tall tower. And I was a little bit fooled by it because I'd look down and I'd see my heart. So I was like, well, it couldn't be a heart wall. I can see my heart, it's not blocked. But it was so protected. And I found myself in a meditation with a coach, and I was at the beach, and it just turned to sand and it just all came down. And that was the true realization of, oh my gosh, this was a heart wall the whole time.
Mm.
And I feel like that masculine energy also needs structure because our expansion is the divine feminine, right? And so sometimes I feel like hold back because if we go into that expansion, like we're trying to build structure in some way to feel safe,
Yeah.
but when we're actually able to expand past that, um, and like I'm literally just putting all of this together right now, we grow our capacity to actually expand our capacity for joy, right? And so when we can break through those chains for you or that stucco wall for me, then we're literally expanding our container to experience more joy. But I think we're so afraid that our joy is going to be taken away because we have had hard things.
It's fear. It's safety and fear. Fear and safety are so actually different, right? Like we align them with the same, but they're not. Like fear is like is driven by ego, like we talked about before, where safety, here's something I learned recently. Finding safety within yourself is the superpower as a woman. If you can feel safety within your own self, you don't need anything else in the world. Genuinely, you don't. Because you could close your eyes and go into that safe space inside of you every single time. And everything else just becomes noise. And again, going back to my meditative practice and my spiritual practice, when things get loud, I go back to the safe space inside of me that I've created, right? Nobody can take it away from me. It's always available to me. It's, and as women, I think we give our safety so externally to everything around us. We put our safety in our relationships, in our friendships, in our jobs, whatever. But ultimately, at the end of the day, that safety belongs to you. And if you can find that inside of you, you've hit you've hit the jackpot for real. And again, that plant medicine had showed me the safety inside of me that and it had to show it to me several times for me to actually go, oh wow, I feel safe inside me. This feels good. The thing with plant medicine, and I'll say this too, is it's about the integration and bringing it into, if you do a psychedelic like a mushroom or like psilocybin and ayahuasca, whatever it is, it's integrating it and bringing it into your reality and working with that in your everyday life, because it's just like that spiritual mind body connection that we get, and it collides the two of them. So when plant medicine showed me my own safety, I dismissed it so many times until recently, and then I was like, wait, like let's feel into that a little bit more, and now I'm able to bring it into my everyday life, and it's my one safe space when everything gets super hard. So because it does.
Yes, it
There,
does.
there's like stability and peace are what I'm working on right now. So,
Well, so you traveled to Peru
mhm.
and experienced the plant medicine. So I want to go back there and tell me what you were searching for. Like what drew you there? What took you there?
Well, we could go back to my mom dying, right? It was funny story is that when my mom was dying, she shaved all her hair and she braided it before she cut it off, and she gave my brother and I each locks of hair. And when she gave me mine, she said to me, "Hey, like one day can you take this to Machu Picchu and like just leave some pieces of my hair around Machu Picchu because I never got to go there." In that time in my life, I'm like, where in the world is Machu Picchu? I'm like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, okay, I take the hair and I'm thinking like, whatever, I'll just put it in a drawer somewhere, right? And I'm like, Machu Picchu, like so random, mom. Where is Machu Picchu? I had to like look it up because I had no idea. And then, in that moment of time, like I said, I was just starting my spiritual journey. So I was like, meh, whatever. And my husband and I ended up going to a birthday dinner, fast forward like several years. And one of my girlfriend's birthday dinners, my husband was sitting next to a gal, and she was talking about how she was doing a retreat in Peru. And his ears perked up because he knows like what my mom had said to me. And I was like, he looks at me like, this is, do you hear what this lady's talking about? She's talking about Peru. And I was like, oh, like, yeah, I've been saying like recently I had wanted to like explore that area. And so I started talking to the lady, and she's like, well, we do have one spot left. But mind you, I literally had just met this lady that day. Like, I'm like, oh my Lord. And I'm like, well, how many people are going? I think there was like 12 to 15 people. And I think there was like around that in our group. And she's like, well, if you want to go, like we have a spot. And so we came home, and Corey, my husband, was like, you should really do this. Like he was super encouraging me to go on this trip to Peru by myself with a whole bunch of strangers, and I'm like, oh Lord. So I just signed up, and I didn't even know what I signed up for. And I just knew that I needed to go to Peru and take my mom's hair, right? And so that's where it all started. Um, so yeah, I mean, I could go into why, but I'll let you. I can.
Yeah, so at the time, I think I wanted to go into the vision that you had in Peru.
Mm.
And you really, to me, it sounded like you really weren't searching for anything. It was just this divine gift that was landed, it just landed in your lap. And so, but when you were there, can you talk about what happened? Like what happened there? Did you know what type of a retreat it was?
Not
Or
really.
did you just like think it was this trip to Peru?
I thought I was going to a retreat, like, and I'm like, okay, the facility looks beautiful. Like, it all sounds great. I had a feeling we would do some plant medicine because I'd already started my plant medicine journey in the US, right? And I had done ayahuasca, I had done mushrooms and psilocybin and ayahuasca and hape and all those things. And I had already like kind of dipped my toe in it, let's say, and already had like a little bit of an experience of what it was like. And then going to Peru, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go with all these strangers, right? And I get there, and I'm like, I don't know anybody there. Nobody. I barely just met this lady that I had met at lunch, right? And so I have this roommate, don't know her for anything either. And I'm like, okay, this is like really awkward for me, like very out of my body. And then come to find out, we're going to do like a cacao ceremony, and then we have this hape ceremony, and then we have a mushroom ceremony, and then we have a wachuma ceremony, which is the San Pedro, and then we end with an ayahuasca ceremony. I was like, oh, I'm like, all right, well, I'm all in because that's just how I am. That's my personality. I'm like, I signed up for this. There's a reason that I needed to be here and do it. So every medicine, everything that we did, I was all in, right? And I had no idea what I was signing up for. We go and they do the first ceremony they did was a hape ceremony, and hape in Peru they call it rape. And there's a circle of us, about 15 of us, and I was second to last. So we have the indigenous people or the tribes that we were working with come in and they serve us, but they explain to us what the meaning of the medicines are for them, right? And when they came in, they gave us this hape ceremony, and he explained it like they look at like the ceremony as the waves of the ocean, right? They come in sets of three. So the first one is like the sweet nectar, right? And then the second one is like the wave that comes through. And then there's the jaguar round, which is like the whoa, like it's like that, like powerful, like round. So they give out all the medicines, and they're administering. I'm watching this circle like go around. it's like one, two, three, okay, that person's puking. One, two, three, that person's puking. And this is like just the first round, nobody did. Everybody's just, it's just very gentle. The second round, people are starting to throw up and like get sick. And I hadn't done that much hape before going to Peru. So I'm like, I had no idea what to expect. But again, like I said, I'm all in. So they do these rounds and I start energetically like feeling my mother and father coming in and like my dad, and I'm angry with my dad because he's not connecting with me like my mom, and then my mom's telling me not to be mad at my dad. I mean, this is all happening while I'm doing this hape ceremony, and they get to the jaguar round and I'm like now like, and mind you, this is a pile of hape that's like this, I mean it's a massive amount that they blow it into both of your sinuses. And so I felt like somebody blew my face off and I'm like, oh, and I immediately just fall to the ground. And I literally laid there and I realized in that moment that I was at the end of the energy circle. So like all the energy had like passed through everyone. So like being second to last energetically, I was just holding all of this energy for everybody in the room, including my own healing. So I was deeply purging. I have never gotten so sick with Hape. I was laying on the ground, I was shaking. I like it was really bad. And then it felt bad anyways. And then and shaman came over to me and he said, "No, this is so good because it's clearing that energy out of your system. And as we go down and like continue to do more medicines, like we're getting rid of that toxic energy blocks out of the gate. Like this is great." And I'm like, this is great. I'm like, this does not feel great. But afterwards, I was like, okay, I had to go to bed. I mean, it was just, it was intense. It lasted a long time. But so we did the hape. Then like another ceremony that we had did was we did Wachuma, and I was telling you about that one today, where like we hiked through the Peruvian jungle for 12 hours. And Wachuma is San Pedro, like a form of San Pedro. They extract it from the cactus like the night before, and they give us this like sludge that you drink out of a cup, and it's like snot. It's gross. But in that moment, I was like, okay, here we go. Like, I'm all in. I signed up for all these things, you know? So let's go drink the whole cup down the hatch. So 12 hours hiking through the Peruvian jungle. I'm like, this is going to be interesting because there's so many bugs and it's just, but it's really beautiful. And so we take this, and he explained like Wachuma. He said it's like they call that in Peruvian culture because it's the severing of the head. So it's like you take your head off and you put it on the shelf, and all day you're working from your heart space. So whatever clearing, whatever stuck energy, whatever things that you have in your heart space is what you're working through, is what you're forced to work through because it's there, right? So if you have anger, hate, trauma, pain, and you've stored it in that heart space, that is what the medicine will show you, and you'll work through it. So for me, I was like a 5-year-old child. I was like, this is so much love and such exude. Like I was like in a cloud and a rainbow the entire day. At one point, when we were hiking through the jungle, there was a man ripping his shirt off and like pounding the ground, and like mosquitoes are attacking him. I mean, you could see all of this because the medicine is like so detailed, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I don't understand, but that's not my energy. And so like I'm walking away from that. And I would touch the trees, like I was telling you before, and like I could see all these vines in the Peruvian jungle, like for miles. And the guy asked me like what I saw when I touched the tree, and I told him like I could see all the vines under the ground, and he said, yeah, he's those are the ayahuasca vines that run through all the Peruvian jungle. He's like, it's amazing that you can see them all. I'm like, I can see them. It's overwhelming. You know, I had a vision that came through in the ayahuasca, and this is kind of a longer story because it's there's a lot of layers to it, but this they would have us take naps in between, and I had a point where I had my grandfather calling to me, and he would call me sugar, and he's like, sugar, sugar, you know. And he came out, and it was just like an energy, right? Like I could feel him. And he said to me, he was like waving to me, like, come, I want to show you something. So he takes me and we go into the jungle, and there's this like huge tent. And mind you, San Pedro is visual too, right? So it's hallucinogenic. And so there's this huge tent, and he opens the door to the tent, and like people are singing and cheering, and they're all in their Indian garb and things. And he shows me this huge chairs that are carved out of this beautiful wood, and they're amazing carvings. And he brings me in and he says, okay, this is your chair. And then he sits down next to me and says, and now this is mine. And I'm like, what? Like, and I realized in that moment that in a past life somewhere that my grandfather and I ran a tribe together. And as I'm looking around in this room, I'm seeing all the children that are running around. And like two of the children that are our children were my own parents. And I was like, wow, whoa, like this is crazy, but it makes so much sense because I was the caretaker for my parents, both of them, most of my life and in this life, right? So the correlation was making so much sense. I couldn't bring anyone in that, like, I would call people into the vision just to see. Anybody that was born after me couldn't come in. It was only the people that were coming before me, that had come before me, that I could bring into it. But there, it was a powerful moment, you know, that was incredible. But the biggest vision came at the end when we did the ayahuasca ceremony. We went into the ayahuasca ceremony, and mind you, I'd already been in Peru about 2 weeks by now, right? So I'm integrated into the culture. I've lived and stayed with the indigenous people for days, months, whatever. Like I'm feeling very ingrained into the culture, which makes a very big difference versus doing ayahuasca in the States, because you go out and you do ayahuasca in the States and you're like, 1 minute you're at the grocery store and the next minute you're in an ayahuasca ceremony, right? It's very, very different. And that's why I like to preface like going to Peru and ingraining yourself in the culture and understanding the medicines before you go do it, and having such a deep respect for where they've come from creates an incredibly different experience. And I know that from doing it, right? Um, but going there, so like we walk through these doors that are carved out of wood, and the doors are like these huge wooden doors, and it's got this big sun carved out of it. And you open the doors, and then there's this huge teepee in this like beautiful land, and the sun is going down. And so that's where we went in to do our ayahuasca ceremony for the night. And it's a 7-hour process, I would say. And
Wow.
it's on the dirt in the Peruvian jungle. Like you're in the dirt, but like there's cots that are like beds that are set up in the dirt, and buckets. And I'm like, what are the buckets for, right? But I'm like, oh, I know what the buckets, like, because I had done ayahuasca before, but I was like, but everybody it's like got these buckets. I'm like, oh, great, here we go, right? And then we're about to start the ceremony, and the guy comes in, and the guy's from Brazil, and I think he was part of like the Quinn tribe. So he comes in, and he is full headdress, like painted red with feathers, and like just it was a real like this. You have to remember that this is their culture, like this is what they do, right? This is how they were raised. They don't know any different. So like how, what a privilege it is for me to be able to go and be a part of a real ceremony in the land that the medicine came from, right? But mind you, I didn't know a freaking soul here either. So, but it turned out to be very beautiful that I didn't know anyone, because I was able to actually really engage into myself and not worry about what anyone else was going through, because I didn't know them. And so I could really just focus on me. Um, but doing the ayahuasca, I took the medicine and I was like, oh, this is so strong. It's so intense, right? And I just knew immediately after I drank it, I'm like, oh, God, this is going to be hard. I just had this feeling, you know? And I sit down and I immediately, like, no, about 15 to 20 minutes in, like, I'm starting to crawl out of my skin. And I'm like, I want to run out the door and light myself on fire right now. Like I am crawling out of my skin. And there's this huge, like they had this bonfire in like front of us, and I could see the fire. And then they played the music, and the music is like the sound of the icaros that the medicine makes. And so that sound, so ayahuasca vines under the ground have a humming sound, right? And so they play these songs to activate the medicine inside of you, right? And I didn't realize it until about the third round of all of them playing, where I'm dry heaving and trying to throw up and crawling out of my skin and running through my brain and all of these psychedelics and all of this like crazy stuff going on in my mind. And I'm freaking out, literally freaking out. I'm ready to, like I said, run out the door. And I'm sitting there and I've done enough work on myself at this point to where I'm like, okay, I need to ask this question. Like, what is this? Why am I trying to, what am I trying to throw up? Like, I keep trying to throw up and nothing's coming out. And then they start playing the music again right after I ask the question. And I'm like, oh God, here comes the throw up again. Because every time they play the music, you could hear everybody starting to puke. And I'm like, great, it's coming again. And all of a sudden, as soon as I asked that question, I got this like flash, and it was this big black ball of goo. And it was like in my guts and in my stomach. And I'm like, what is that ball? Ew, gross. And the voice that came in said, this is fear and hate and anger and resentment and shame that you're carrying in your body, but it doesn't belong to you. And we need to get it out. I'm like, well, I've been trying for 4 hours. I'm trying to purge this thing. And finally, by me asking the question, I was like, okay, well, let's get it out then, right? And all of a sudden, this big golden thread comes in and like wraps around this ball. And I'm seeing this ball just coming up through into my esophagus. And it would get right here, and I'd be like, and then it wouldn't come out and it would go back down. And that went on for another couple of hours. It was awful. And so finally, I get this ball out, and it like comes out, and I literally fall over and I'm exhausted at this point. I've been trying to puke for hours. And all of a sudden, like this energy comes in, and I can feel it. It's my dad. And I start bawling my face off because I've been trying spiritually so hard to connect with him over and over again. And I couldn't understand why he wasn't coming through my journaling and all the ways that my mom was coming to me. He wasn't even coming, right? It had been a year after he had died. And like I was really trying to connect with him, and I was trying so hard. And he says to me, thank you. And I said, well, thank you for what? He's like, thank you for getting rid of that. I couldn't come to you until you got rid of all of that fear, hate, and anger that resided in our lineage, in our bloodline. And he said, you've healed hundreds of thousands of years of generational trauma by getting rid of this ball of goo. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then my mom taps on my shoulder, and I turn around and I look, and there is this um as far as the eye can see. And if you would think of the movie of Braveheart, where everyone is cheering and yelling and like, ah, like tribal for hundreds of, I couldn't even see past. And they're crying and they're screaming my name and they're thanking me for healing all of this hundreds of thousands of years of generational trauma. And then my mom comes in, she's hugging me, crying, my grandparents, everyone's coming in crying and thanking me. And I had no idea like what I had just gone through. I just know that it was super hard. So we wake up, we're telling everybody the story of what we've gone through. We all pass around this like beautiful carved stick out of a snake. It looks like a snake, but it's like a stick. And you have the stick, so you get to speak and explain your experience. And everyone, when I had explained my experience, they were like, wow, like that's because I'm a visionary anyways. Um, and then all of a sudden, this other woman, so there was like people in the room that didn't do any medicine, they were just helping hold the container. So there's a lady that was like in her 70s and a man that stood in the corner of this teepee literally all night long. And he was like 80, not kidding. Like he stood up sleeping. It was so weird. And he was in that room all night long. And one other part that I forgot, as soon as like my dad, right before my dad came in the fire, a phoenix came out of the fire, and it looked me in the eyes and it said, you are the phoenix of the fire. Hence why I have a phoenix tattooed on my feminine side on this side of my arm.
Wow.
But it was so powerful. Anyway, so this lady's talking to me, And she's talking in Spanish. I have no idea what she's saying. And she's crying profusely. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what did I do? I have no idea. So the maestro guy, the head guy comes over and he's like, oh, just give it a second. I'll translate what she's saying. And mid speaking, all of a sudden the guy on the other side of the room pipes up that has been standing in the corner all night long, this 80-year-old man. And he's like, yelling back with her, and then he's over here speaking to her. I have no idea what they're talking about, but they're pointing at me and they're crying, and I'm like, oh God, like what did I do? There's 30 other people in this room other than like our party. Like only 4 of us made to the ayahuasca ceremony out of all 12, so it was pretty like intense. But come to find out, the lady said that in her sleep, while she's sleeping, while we're all doing ayahuasca, sh this Inca princess came to her and brought me to her and performed surgery on me and got a whole bunch of things out of me, but she couldn't get everything. So she wanted me to know that I'm going to have to go home, and I've got some things inside of me that need to come out, and I need to go home and figure this out. So immediately I'm thinking like, am I dying? Like what is wrong with me? And she's like, but she wants you to know that you'll be okay. And the reason she was crying was because Inca princesses do not come into ayahuasca ceremonies ever. But when she told me the name of the Inca princess that had come, it's my middle name,
Oh
Francisca.
gosh. Wow.
And so I was like, what? And so in that moment, I thought, I wonder if it was me that I came and performed surgery on myself. Because being in Peru never had felt so foundational for me. Like I felt at home there. It was lovely and beautiful and warm for my heart, right? I've never seen so much love exude out of my body. Like when I was doing the Wachuma, like love was what was coming out of my heart. I felt so much love. And I got to feel the love that I have inside of me, which was so beautiful. But the other guy in the corner, he ended up having the same vision as this lady. Same thing, Inca Princess surgery. Fast forward, I come home. I think it's my hernia. I get this hernia repaired, not the hernia. All of a sudden, my left boob starts hurting. And I'm like, oh, I need to go get this checked. Mind you, I've already had 8 reconstructive surgeries on my breast because I've had a lot of scar tissue issues. Anyway, go to the doctor. Doctor's like, doesn't look quite normal. We're going to send you to uh, get a mammogram. Get a mammogram. 4 hours later in this mammogram, I'm like, they had to have found something. Sure, heck, they found something. So turns out I had breast cancer. And so I'm thinking, oh my gosh, my mind is like, this is what happened in Peru, right? And so I get surgery. I opted for the double mastectomy because my mom died of breast cancer and I didn't want to have to put my kids through what I had gone through, right? It just made more sense for me to do the double mastectomy. So I did that, got a clean bill of health, didn't have to do any chemo. Everything was isolated in my milk ducts. I had ductal carcinoma. It was like stage 0. They got everything out. And I was like, clean slate. Didn't even have to do radiation. I'm like, wow, whatever surgery she performed on me, she did a really good job isolating this out of my, like from spreading in my body, right? And so I was really happy. Like I got a clean bill of health from that. And then my husband and I were out on our side by side like 6 months later. And while we're out in the side by side, we hit a rock and it like jugged my like right side. And I'm like, oh, what is this pain that I'm feeling? Like it was so intense. So that pain, um, like was crazy. The next morning I got up and then I ended up falling like down and just in exuding like dry heaving. It was so painful. Long story short, we get to the hospital. They do a CT scan. They find a what they thought was a softball sized tumor, and it was wrapped around my right ovary and it was cutting the blood supply off to my right ovary. And they're like, we have to do emergency surgery. Like, and so they do emergency surgery. They take this tumor out. Comes to find out the tumor was a football sized tumor, but it was like a pliable tumor. And the guy's like, do you want to see what it looked like? He hands me the paper. Guess what it was? the ball of goo that I saw in the
Oh my
ayahuasca
gosh.
ceremony.
Oh my
I was
gosh.
like, Corey even was like, oh my God, it's your ball of goo. And I'm like, it's my ball of goo. But I got it out. So all that anger, hate. So this has like been part of my healing journey. But this is why I firmly believe that plant medicine saved my life. Had I not gone to Peru and done that, had I not experienced it, I wouldn't have been so like, I need to heal something inside of me. But the greatest healing ever was like getting all of that anger, resentment, pain, and things that never even belonged to me in the first place out of my body. So it was just magic, like pure magic. I just believe so hardly in plant medicine now, and it saved my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I have so much more to ask you
Yeah.
because there's a lot more that's going on. There's a lot more that you're doing. Would you be willing to come back for a round two?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, what an amazing start to this interview. Like it's going to take me a while to digest all of this
Yeah.
and just incredible, an incredible, incredible journey. And to
Thank
be
you.
able to see it through. I think that's what's really striking me the most is that literally, like, there's the ball of goo.
Ah, right? That's what someone's jokes are like. That's going to be the name of your book, The Ball of Goo.
There you go.
Oh, that's
I would
funny.
buy it.
Yeah, that'd be so good. Anyway.
All right. Well, I'm going to just say thank you, and we're going to set up for round two, and we'll be back.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.